What's up, guys? Welcome back to a new video here. And we got pretty shocking news coming out over the last few hours about Nancy Pelosi's reaction to the election, where Nancy Pelosi basically shreds Joe Biden and blames him over Kamala Harris's election loss. Pretty shocking, guys. And it was an interview with the New York Times, and she's directly quoted by saying, "Had the president gotten out sooner, there may have been other candidates in the race," Mrs. Pelosi said during an interview with the New York Times. The anticipation was that if the president were to step aside, there would be an open primary. Now, and she also goes on to say, "As I say, Kamala may have, I think she would have done well in that primary and been stronger going forward." And guys, I said this before in the past, that was a correct decision to make. But we do not know that. That did not happen. We live with what happened. And because the president endorsed Kamala Harris immediately, that made it impossible to have a primary at the time. If it had been made much earlier, talking about Biden's decision to drop out, it would have been different. Now, that is super interesting, guys, because it kind of validates a lot of reporting at the time that Nancy Pelosi did not want to endorse Kamala Harris. She wanted to keep it going. She wanted to have an open primary, even at the time where, I thought an open primary would be the more beneficial way to go, because even if Kamala Harris, she probably would have won that primary, but she would have come out stronger, gaining support that way. But the interesting thing here is also that she's saying Biden should have dropped out far earlier, and because it was so late, and Biden endorsed her immediately, so there was really no choice. It also kind of goes against the idea that, Joe Biden hates Kamala Harris. If he hated Kamala Harris, he wouldn't have endorsed her immediately. He would have allowed for an open primary, which is what Pelosi was suggesting. And the one thing I would say is, to be fair to Biden, it took Pelosi, she wasn't saying anything about Biden and his cognitive decline for several months, only until it was absolutely necessary and she really was forcing him out did she finally say something. But she wasn't saying anything for months. But to be fair to her, guys, if Biden had listened to what she is saying in this piece, the Democrats might have won, because maybe they would have had a different candidate. Maybe it would have been Josh Shapiro or Gavin Newsom, who might have fared better against Trump. Or maybe even Kamala Harris, who would have had more time to actually build up a campaign. She only had 3 months. That's why she was put in an impossible position, guys, and why she was really fighting an uphill battle from the start here. So, again, it's pretty shocking that Nancy Pelosi, a prominent Democratic figure, if not the most prominent, is basically ripping the sitting president, Joe Biden. Pretty shocking stuff. This is really not something you see, especially in Democratic circles. It kind of just shows the amount of disarray in the party right now. And I'm curious if Biden responds to this, because he's really not said much about Speaker Pelosi. But if I'm Biden, you're a lame duck president, I would respond to this. This is pretty interesting stuff here. And it's also being reported that many people in the Biden team actually think that they would have won. What? I don't know. I think that seems pretty insane, guys. He was a dead duck after that debate. It was over for him. I think Kamala Harris, she probably did the best she could have done, because again, the reason why she lost, in my opinion, guys, is because, she was tied to the incumbent, and Biden, for better, however you feel, is a relatively unpopular incumbent, and that is why Harris lost, because she was tied to the presidency, to Biden. But again, the fact that Pelosi is ripping the sitting president here is pretty shocking. Now, the question is, if there was an open primary, who could it have been? Would it have been a Josh Shapiro, a Newsom, a Michelle Obama, which I don't think is likely, but that was, among many people who wanted them to run. Or she was among many people who wanted that. And, to be fair, there wasn't much other people in the party apparatus who was calling for an open primary. There's some influencers. I saw Cenk Uygur on the Young Turks called for one. But other guys, I saw Alan Lichtman, which we talked about, he said, no, just coalesce around Harris immediately, which turned out to be the wrong choice. Perhaps it could have been stronger if you had had a more open process. But the truth is, we just don't know, guys. And listen, if they had listened to Pelosi's original instincts, this could have been a very different race. If Biden had dropped out, Biden originally said, guys, that he's going to be a one-term president. He originally said that when he first ran. He basically, and then what happens normally is, guys, where you get the power, you don't want to give it up, which is probably why it took Biden so long to give it up. If he had just said 2 years in, I'm done, allowed for a very open process, then the Democrats could have had a much stronger candidate, and they could have beaten Trump. But That's just not how it's going to go down in the history books. And I don't know. I do think it hurts Biden's legacy in the end. I think it definitely does. But it is pretty shocking that Nancy Pelosi ripping Joe Biden. Unreal, guys. And also, this was reported at the time, as I said, but and a lot of people denied it. But no, the reporting was totally correct. Pelosi was one of the last Democratic officials to actually endorse Harris. That tells you all you need to know about the validity of the original reports, and the fact that she's saying this publicly shows she's giving no fucks. That's what I got for you guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Crazy news, and I'll see you guys at some point this weekend. Thanks, and make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you.